This is a shortened and retold version of the Shewetmik story Trout Children. These stories are meant to teach and pass on the values of the Shewetmik people. They display the moral and physical consequences of actions, specifically the reciprocity of environment, as well as create ties to the places and stories. In an underwater country lived a husband and a wife. The wife was a woman created from wood, and the husband was a trout who had taken the form of a young man. They lived there for some time, and they had 2 children, a daughter and a son. There were other children in this country, and when these children grew up, they were teased for not having a grandmother. The children were confused as to why they did not have a grandmother, so they approached their mother. She told them that they actually did have a grandmother, but that she lived in the land country. When they would go up there to meet her, they would see her working in her hillside to gather roots. When they visited her, however, they must not speak to her. The children went up to their grandmother's house the next 3 days. Every time they noted her hard at work and fancied themselves some of her food. Their grandmother, who lived alone in the land country, of course noticed that some of her food was taken. She investigated. Perhaps it had been a raccoon or bear. She found the bare footprints of children and knew only her daughter's children would visit in such a way. That night she prepared a special medicine and convinced a nearby stump to pretend to be herself working tomorrow. The next day, the 4th day, at the time she would usually be working, she hid in the house and the stump pretended to work as the old woman. As the children walked up, they looked around, and the boy was convinced he saw his grandmother working. The girl thought their grandmother looked a little different than the last 3 days, but her brother convinced her it was fine. As they entered the house to eat, their grandmother popped out from behind a wall and threw the medicine on them. It directly hit the boy and splashed on the girl slightly. The boy was turned into a human by the medicine, but because the girl was not directly hit, she morphed into a small dog. The boy was unaware of what happened to his sister. Their grandmother began to take care of them, and she told her grandson that under no circumstances should he mistreat or beat his dog. The boy took up hunting with a bow and arrow, and 3 times he shot a bird, and 3 times it was eaten by the dog before he could reach it. The next time, the 4th time, he took an arrow and began to beat his dog afterwards. His dog spoke to him and said, "Why beat me, your sister?" She ran away from him, and as he chased her, she turned into a chickadee and flew away. As the boy returned to his grandmother that night, he asked her why she didn't tell him the dog was his sister. She said to him, "If I had told you, perhaps you would be even sadder than you are now." To punish him, she told him if his arrows got cut up in a tree, he could by no means climb the tree to reach the arrow. He lost 3 arrows high up in the tree in this way, and he did not climb to reach them. The next time, the 4th time, the arrow was not far above the ground, and he decided he could climb the tree to reach it. After not long climbing, or so he thought, he looked down and saw he had climbed so high that the earth was not even visible. He continued climbing, however, towards his arrow, constantly just out of reach. He continued climbing until he reached a higher country, the sky country. This country was pleasant and full of people, and so he remained. Today, the remnants of this very tree remain. This story demonstrates the law literally translating to the land and sky turning on you. Dr. Ronald E. Ignis said, "We have an important word, and that word means that if you don't respect the land, look after the land properly, the land will turn on you." And we see that today, that people are not honoring the land and respecting the land. So we're seeing great fires burning. The land is turning on us. As the children steal from their grandmother, who I believe is a representation of nature, they are punished by being turned into humans and dogs. This is also only a section of the whole story, and I would recommend reading the whole thing at the website shown on screen. Throughout the story, we also see the constant reoccurrence of the number 4. This number is very culturally significant in such ways as the 4 quadrants of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health, the 4 sacred medicines, sage, cedar, tobacco, and sweetgrass, and the 4 seasons of the year. Thank you for listening.